the question will be, do they make it this week by Trump's deadline? Is that a bit arbitrary just because of the national holiday? He loves to have symbolic moments like this that are quite theatrical, and that would be a very Trumpy way of pulling off this bill, which will be his signature legislation for his whole second term.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
It is that time of night again. It is time for our Trump Dump, and this evening I'm joined by the assistant US editor at The Times, David Charter. David, warm welcome to the evening edition again on this 5-year-old station. You've been with us since the very beginning, of course, US-based for the whole thing, and it's wonderful to celebrate 5 years with you. Donald Trump's, trying to get to a point where he's celebrating his big, beautiful bill, as it's known. It's being debated for the final time, isn't it, by senators today, having won a crucial vote over the weekend. Let's hear from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who spoke about the bill earlier today.
And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big, beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history. And that's why the White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president.
Caroline Leavitt there. Well, despite Trump claiming it'll be the most significant piece of legislation that will ever be signed in the history of our country, there are several Republican holdouts, including Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who said it will result in tens of billions of dollars in lost funding for North Carolina. Here he is, furiously talking down the bill over the weekend.
Now, Republicans are about to make a mistake on health care and betraying a promise. It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs.
Tom Tillis there. David Charter, this is subject at the moment, isn't it, to voting going on in the Senate. It's been described as a vote marathon. Just explain how it works, if that's okay.
Yes, this is all part of the Donald Trump marathon. Remember, he was president when this station started 5 years ago, and who would have thought he'd still be president today? That was, of course, in the middle of COVID. Now we're in the middle of this votorama on his very large tax cuts. Today, we've got a lot of amendments largely put up by the Democrats, but some of them have been put up by Republican senators who are still unhappy with various parts of the bill and threatening to vote against it. So those are the ones that will be watched most closely, because I expect most, if not all, of the Democrat amendments to go down, because the majority in the 100-member Senate is 53 to 47 in the Republicans' favor. That means they can afford to lose 3 votes, because a tie at 50-50 would be broken by the vice president sitting in his role as president of the Senate. So we do have 2 Republican senators who are adamantly opposed to the passage of this bill. And you just heard from one of them, this Tom Tillis from North Carolina. So opposed is he that he got so angry about it, accusing Trump of betrayal over the weekend, that Trump went for him big time, threatening to oust him from his seat and calling him all sorts of names. And Tom Tillis promptly announced that he would not be standing for re-election next year, which actually is a problem. This is another whole story we won't get into. It is actually a problem for the Republicans, because he's in North Carolina, which is a swing state. It's going to be a very close vote to hold that seat without the incumbent. Trump won't be worrying about that so much at the moment. They'll just be looking very carefully at the numbers, because another Republican called Rand Paul from Kentucky is absolutely against increasing the debt provision for borrowing which is in the bill, a very, very last line of a 940-page bill, increases the ability of the Treasury to borrow another $5 trillion, effectively to fund Trump's tax cuts when they come in. But the line, of course, from the White House is that this bill will generate at least $4 trillion in growth. Well, that's hotly disputed. But that's one reason they say that the increasing the debt level will only be a temporary move. Rand Paul says, we've heard of all this about temporary moves on increasing the debt level before, and we keep being asked to increase the debt level. It just gets worse. And then, so he is a holdout. So they're 2 votes down, and they've got several other senators who have different issues on different things. So that's why we're watching all these amendments being voted on today.
Yeah, and to kind of sum this up in a very basic way, these are huge swathing tax cuts, really, aren't they? Which will cost which will add on to the US deficit, £3.3 trillion at least, says the Congressional Budget Office, which is non-partisan. And obviously, as you said, Trump is saying, well, we're going to experience such growth because of these huge swathing tax cuts that it's not going to end up being a deficit at all. It is a risk, but there's an issue, isn't there? Because the House approved a cheaper version of the bill last month by a single vote, yet to give final approval to the bill. So there's quite a lot of discussion about how the figures have changed. Is there, David, essentially?
Yes, because to get this bill to the president's desk so he can sign it, he keeps saying he wants to do this on the 4th of July, the big national holiday coming up. It needs to pass the Senate, but the senators will have made all these amendments and changes. And so it has to go back to the House for them to sign off on what the Senate has changed. And it, as you say, it only passed the House by 1 vote. And once again, we'll get another drama back in the House, I suppose, as this bill goes back, as it inevitably will. It's just a case of in what form it goes back. I expect that it will go all the way through, but the question will be, do they make it this week by Trump's deadline? Is that a bit arbitrary just because of the national holiday? He loves to have symbolic moments like this that are quite theatrical, and that would be a very Trumpy way of pulling off this bill, which will be his signature legislation for his whole second term. There won't be another bill like this. That's why he's literally called it, and it is written in the title of the bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
It calls the fallout with Elon Musk, who vociferously against this bill, just saying it's going to bankrupt everyone. We reported earlier, David, that Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer is expected at the White House later today for talks on Iran and Gaza. And I note that Axios, the news outlet, political news outlets, reporting tonight that Trump will host the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on the 7th of July. So presumably what's happening today with the Strategic Affairs Minister and what's happening in the background will be building towards Donald Trump meeting Netanyahu on the 7th of July, where Trump, I mean, he said it again at the weekend, he wants that situation in Gaza sorted out as soon as possible, doesn't he?
Well, this is returning back to obviously the Gaza situation. There are still, they think, 20 living hostages who obviously Israel wants them back in the negotiation. Clearly, Hamas has accused Israel of atrocities and not following the previous ceasefire, which was agreed. If you remember, there was a ceasefire agreed between Israel and Hamas, which was brokered by a combination of President Biden, who was then still in office, and Trump, who was incoming. It was in January, just before Trump took over. But it only lasted a couple of months until about the middle of March. And since then, it's, as we all know, it's been another bloodbath really going on almost every day. And it is something that Trump has been keen to clear up, as he said he would. And he's trying to use the leverage of the fact that he came in strongly for Israel to bomb Iran to lean on, certainly on the Israeli side, to do the deal. And I don't know what leverage he thinks he's got over Hamas, but there does seem to be some optimism this time that they can get a deal that sticks. But that's the key, isn't it? Getting a deal that that endures and doesn't just last for another couple of months.
Yeah. Let's talk about domestic matters in the United States now. Something else we heard from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, today, that Donald Trump will be attending the opening of a controversial new detention centre for migrants. It's located in the Florida Everglades. He's visiting that tomorrow. The centre is dubbed Alligator Alcatraz for its unique location. It's seen protests against its creation, which was allowed after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed an executive order in 2023 using emergency powers. Here is Leavitt today announcing the opening.
The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens.
Gosh, I mean, it's definitely catchy, isn't it? Alligator Alcatraz, officially known as that. It'll house 5,000 migrants who are dubbed illegal. And they better not try and break out because they'll be subject to the tough terrain and the alligators, David Charter.
Yeah, this is the latest eye-catching initiative of Trump's on his rounding up of illegal migrants. In a way, I'm tempted to say that it's slightly covering over the cracks in the operation because they haven't arrested as many people as they said they would arrest. They have arrested a lot of people. That's why they're running out of formal beds, because most of them have to go through a lengthy due process. Not all of them. He's got, of course, he had a fast track deportation to El Salvador for some of them, for some citizens of Venezuela, and he was allowed to do that. But most of the people who've been arrested pending deportation do have appeals. So it's alliterate, so it must be good, like the One Big Beautiful Bill. We've now got an Alligator Alcatraz. It's a former air base. It's right down in the south of Florida in the Everglades. It sounds terrifying. I'm sure they won't be switching the air conditioning on either. It's going to be really hot and probably very uncomfortable conditions down there. And it's all designed as all part of Trump's main plan is to basically scare people from either coming to America illegally or staying in America illegally. It's part of the pressure campaign on people to voluntarily deport, I think, rather than face some pretty awful conditions if you are rounded up.
Well, look, David, thank you so much for being with us to give us a full update. And it's thought that vote-a-rama, as David termed it, will go on into the wee small hours American time. So we'll see where we're at with that tomorrow. David Charter is Assistant US Editor for The Times. You can read David's work along with his colleagues at thetimes.com, The Times Live app, and of course across the paper as well. David, thank you.